All right, we're here at Dungeon Strike Studios, or DSRX Studios, as it were, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But I do appreciate that the boys gave the studios a shout out last time they were doing predictions for what show did you guys do?
It was for the most recent Giants Live.
That's right. That's right. So today we've got kind of a historic episode that I'm really excited about. If you didn't get a chance to check out the intro video, I've introed Project Datum. It's a project that we're working internally here myself, honestly. I'm kind of leading it up. The idea being really working hard over the past few months, thousands of lines of code, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of feedback from the team here and elsewhere to see, if we could build a real data analytics platform to be able to track how the best strongmen and strongwomen in the world are trending, answering the big questions that we all have that are really just opinion based right now, which is, was 2017 Thor better than 2019 Lacey's? Right. And it's always just been a shrug, right? But I really am excited for the launch of this. It's been a long time in the making because we can really start answering these questions and looking at cold hard data, as well as, being able to take, athletes that have been there and have done that. We're blessed here at the gym to be able to have world-class athletes like Lucas, Aaron Murray, Angelica Jardine, Zach McCarley, to be able to have in here to be able to take, the raw data and then let's talk about it. And especially when it comes up to, upcoming shows or who was the strongest, who was the best, who may not deserve to be where they are today, who may deserve to have a shot that's not getting a shot right now. That's the point of this. The whole big part of why I did this was to see if there's a possibility that we could break through opinion, conjecture, and ultimately, frankly, corruption in the sport. But I would say the release of this is like it's the beta launch, right? So as we go through this today, have an open mind. It's going to take a long time. It's like a prototype to be able to build this out, but I think you're all going to be very excited about it. But a quick review of what this tool does. If you haven't checked out the intro video, basically, I have looked over events for all time, really, when it comes to strongman at a pro-am or greater level, broken down all those events, the placings of those events, the type of contest those athletes have been a part of, if they're rookies or if they're veterans, have they had injuries, looking at all these different variables in order to say, okay, how have these athletes ranked, in specific areas of the sport, and really narrow down all those events to 9 attributes: pressing, loading, grip, deadlift, squat, you name it, right? And, bringing for pressing, for example, I mean, there's multiple subsets of data that are focusing on, well, how an athlete is done with circus dumbbell, right? Or with log or with axle or anything like that, Viking press, natural stone press. I mean, you name it, everything's incorporated. Ultimately, to come to a one score sheet to be able to say, okay, how good has this athlete been historically? What can they really do? Or what have they proven they could do in a contest? And then how do we use that as a predictor or to see, what is, we can look at it from any, perspective that we want to. But as far as today, we're doing a review of America's Strongest Man coming up here in the next few weeks. Our very own Lucas Hatton is going to be there. And so he's got his own scorecard, which it's going to be interesting to just kind of hear from him on how his scorecard, ranks with everybody else. And then, I don't know, hopefully the other athletes got to check this out and maybe it puts fire in their belly a little bit. I don't know.
And
but
I don't have the highest scorecard coming into the show.
It's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy.
As the reigning champion of the show, I do not have the highest scorecard. So that's going to be interesting to look at.
It will be. Yeah. So with that being said, thanks for being here, man. So we'll, do you want to do a quick, review of the show coming up, what the events are, and then we'll break this down. We'll want the whole roster. We'll go through the whole roster here, and then
sure,
we'll just do an analysis.
Yeah. So very cool time for Strongman Corp. James Deffenbaugh and Lynn Morehouse just took over. They're putting in a very, very big effort to build up the federation as a whole. A lot of evidence of that if you watch anything to do with amateur nationals. So I'm just really excited for the momentum they're building. Sounds like they have a really cool relationship with the Olympia Festival, which is putting up big money. So there's $40,000 on the line for the men's division, $40,000 on the line for the women's division. Seems like the Olympia really wants America's Strongest to be on that top circuit of shows. So we're riding a lot of positive momentum. It's a really cool time. I called out a lot of the guys to see who I could get to come to the show. What's kind of cool was since that post, a lot more guys have showed up and signed up. And it's a very cool event. 6 events over 2 days. Trump log, 60 seconds max reps, 300 or 360 for reps. I think it's a little light, but 360 still.
Of course, you would say that.
I would say that.
Yeah.
Yoke 40 feet by 40 feet with 1,000 pounds, just properly heavy. The America Shield 425-pound custom Husafel shaped like the 1940s Captain America shield. Pretty cool. Last time they used it,
I'm excited to see that.
It killed everybody. They didn't go very far. The deadlift ladder ending with the Cerberus's version of the Mammoth bar. So 695 up to 850, 4 bars. Cerberus sandbag toss, they're going 17 feet. Interestingly enough, they're going 17 feet for all the women too. So crazy high for the women. Honestly, real high for us too. 45 up to 55 pounds in the bags, 2.5 pound jumps. Stones, basically the OSG stone series for the open men, just minus the first stone. So 5 stones, 325 up to 425. With Lynn being involved, I'm just kind of assuming it's the straight up setup from OSG.
It has to be. Yeah.
And it'd be great.
And honestly, it would
be a great
be good.
setup.
Yeah, I got to give him credit. I mean, that's the way he set that up, especially the app, like the platforms.
Yeah,
I love how he's built them.
Yeah,
like
transport's easy, adjust height easy.
Yeah, honestly,
definitely
kudos.
copying that in the future.
Yeah. No, and I think it's important. I think it's been definitely something that's been on your mind this past year, in and out of training. The idea that, America's Strongest Man and Woman has been around for a lot longer than a lot of these other big shows that are in here today, right? And I think that it's just kind of been, we forget about greatness that's come from the show. Brian Shaw came from this show. Bobby Thompson came from this show. Dre Mitchell came from this show, right? And it's just kind of, for some reason, just has kind of like lost this, momentum. But now that, James and Lynn are in place, and big shout out to James for the work that he's been doing in such a small amount of time. I mean, he just took over a few months ago, and just the changes to the website, what we saw from Nationals this year, it was clean. I love innovation. That's just who I am as a person. That's the whole reason I built this tool. Like, I love the idea of there's always got to be a better way to do it. And the laser throwing apparatus had some glitches, but so what? I mean, that's pretty what cool. It takes, right? To do cool things. So I'm with you, man. I think we really, the fold needs to come back, especially the investment has been made into Strongman Corp and what Lynn wants it to be. And honestly, excuse me, James and Lynn, I should say. And especially, since, the Giants Live team has kind of stepped up and said, okay, it's a Giants Live qualifier now, right? So come on now, right? So anyways, with that being said, let's go ahead and just, we're going to go alphabetically through everybody that's on the roster. We had a couple of key changes that happened here recently. Matos, right?
Yeah, so out. From the original roster, Chris Matos dropped out. Through the grapevine, sounds like Brian Kitchen is going to do SEL instead of this. I don't know that for 100% fact.
Well, which SEL?
I don't know. It's the same weekend, though.
Okay.
But I think he just wants to do the trip. And then Kevin Ferris is the only guy we're going to analyze out of alphabetical order because he very recently signed up and we added him to the deck basically last night.
Yeah.
Very excited to have Kevin Ferris in the show. Basically, my call out was anybody who isn't prepping for the Giants Live World Tour Open, which is 1 week after this, or the Rogue Invitational, you really don't have a good excuse. And I'm happy for the guys who took the call and they signed up.
Yeah, man. Good for you. Seriously. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and start with our first athlete here. Like I said, we're going to be going in alphabetical order from first name here, and we're going to start with Andrew Burton. So as I'm going to go ahead and introduce Andrew here, but obviously this is our first scorecard we're ever pulling up on any episode with this, and so I'm going to do a quick deep dive. We're going to spend a little bit more time on Andrew just because I need to explain the scorecard, right? So obviously the first thing that I just asked everyone to be patient with is there at the top, you're going to see multiple dashes with age underneath it. I have built this tool to be automated. It actually uses a combination of AI and algorithm work to be able to pull this score sheet. All of the Excel sheets of data that I have is all pulled into this one scorecard for us, which is really cool, right? But what that usually will do, and we'll see this with Kevin Fair's scorecard and with Lucas's, I think, as well, but once someone has competed enough at an international level where it's actually posted publicly that their age, weight, and height, it'll be brought into this. But, for a lot of these guys, this is America's Strongest Man is their biggest show that they've done so far, right? And so a lot of the data that we're pulling from is from pro-ams. It's from smaller shows, right? So with Andrew, that's all hyphened out. All right, now up at the top right corner of your screen, this is where the meat and potatoes, right? This is you'll see what's called the tapas, No, that's not the food, right? But it stands for total average primary attribute score, right? So as I mentioned in the intro, on the left-hand side of the screen under attributes, every event that any athlete has done over time, all of those events have come into these 9 attributes. We have carrying, deadlift, grip, loading, medley, pressing, push-pull, squat, and throwing. And then the PAS score is the primary attribute score. It's a combination of multiple different variables, but really they're mainly under the next 2 columns here, which is MCS, which is max capacity score. What that means is if an athlete has done a max event in a show over the time that we're analyzing them, which in this case, we're looking at the past 3 years. We're looking at the past 3 years with all these athletes, right? Then their max capacity score will be based off of what the current world standard is for that lift, right? So if it's deadlift, squat, whatever that might be, and if they did it, we're going to be able to understand, all right, well, what's their max capacity that they've done in a show? Who cares what you've done in the gym? I don't care. I know you don't care, right? Like come and show up and see what that happens. Now, the most of the data that we're going to be able to see from here today is the last column, which is EHS, which is event history score. So I did a lot of learning on Reddit and a lot of learning from other very smart people like in the community around how they've measured out event history. I have my own way that I've gone about it, like on a lot of, different variables. Show tiers, right? Someone doing a log lift in Strongest Man on Earth, right? Versus doing a log lift at the Rainier Classic, which, hey, I love my show, but it's a pro-am, right? There's different ways that you need to be calculating those scores among many different other things. But that score basically shows how those athletes have done in the shows they've competed with so far and how they've done against other athletes, right? And so event history, max capacity really helps make that primary attribute score, and that's really the meat and potatoes of what we're looking at. And then as we look through these scorecards, we'll be able to dive in a little bit deeper. Why in the world does he have a 65 loading, right? Or, okay, he's never lost a carrying in a throwing event. Let's talk about that, right? Which we'll do with Andrew here in a second. So, and then, of course, I'll go back to the top right. So we've got the TAPA score. That is, look at that. Think of that as that's how good that athlete should be on paper. But it's not the reality, right? On paper, they should be, 85 overall, which is a very strong score in this case with Andrew. But the data score is the one that gets really cool. It takes all those variables that I was talking about, inexperience, what types of shows they've done, the weights that they've done at those shows, and many other things. And it says, here's what their real score is based off of that, right? So let's just go ahead and dive in. So Andrew's got a TAPA score of 85, which is very strong, with a data score of 76.67. Now, according to the scale that built, that puts him at a very good athlete. A little history on Andrew, then I want to hear your thoughts, right? So Andrew won 2023 World's Strongest Firefighter, which actually, like, if you've ever seen that,
it's turning into almost a legitimate near pro level open show.
Very much so.
It's very
like
good
if
show.
you win that, it's pretty legit. 3 years ago, not so much. Now, I would agree with that. Then he also competed at the Arnold Worlds, taking second, being very consistent, very good in that show. And then he's also competed in the Shaw Open as well. So from our perspective, decently, big shows. Whenever there's been a carrying event, so very small sample data for Andrew, but also a younger guy, right? I've seen his Instagram. He pulls 815 fairly easily. He loads stones fairly. I mean, he's a good athlete. But, what do you think, Lucas? Like, you probably don't know much about Andrew, but seeing this, have you done any research ahead of time on him?
So I like the overall data score. It's almost 9 points lower. Like you said, a lot of these guys, this might be their biggest pro opportunity so far.
Yep.
So, like, in the carrying events that he's done, he's won.
Yes.
But let's say you put him in Strongest Man on Earth doing carrying events. Does he remain on 100? No.
Right.
But we don't have any data to prove otherwise. So I think this is a really cool test for a guy like Andrew. I've been watching all of his lifts. His log looks pretty good right now. We know he can move based on his scores, and 1,000-pound yoke seems to be pretty standard almost anywhere. He's done it before.
Yep.
A guy that's pretty good at carrying, good at moving. I anticipate the America Shield's going to be good for him. I've seen him do very cardio-heavy events before and crush.
Yeah, like the medley at the Shaw Classic, he won.
That thing was brutal.
The overhead, the medley at Arnold didn't do as well, but he crushed it, and other things that involved a lot of movement.
Yeah,
a lot of movement.
So if I had to say he's got a good throwing score. This is a little heavier and a little higher than most of the shows that he's done, but I still don't think it'll be a problem. I think he's still a top 3 or 4 thrower in the show. If I had to say his holes, and the scorecard accurately predicts it, he says that Stones is his weakest event. If I had to guess, I bet Burton is sitting top 3 coming into the last event, which will be the Stones.
Interesting.
And it's going to come down to his stone run.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's a good call out.
Even without your scorecard, that's kind of where I had him. But it's cool that the scorecard basically, if you went to his Instagram, you'd probably reach the exact same conclusions.
Yeah, and I would agree. It's so crazy. It almost hits exactly what you said. Like, he's been a gamer when it comes to the events that he needs to win at shows. The medley at Shaw Classic wins it. The home retire deadlift comes in second. He did 431 kilos.
Yeah.
On the home retire. I mean, he's a good athlete, but it's just one of those things where you have now competed in, I would say, 4 major shows, right? I mean, that comes, like, to be a gamer and to come in third at Strongest Man on Earth. I mean, this is where this gets fascinating. And this goes back to other athletes we're going to talk about. Who's got that eye of the tiger and who can kind of just shut it off? Which you've got the tism a little bit, which is good for you when it comes to competing. But anyways, we'll see.
Yeah, like, if there was an X factor in there, like, he does have the highest tapas, I believe.
He does. We'll look at it.
But to say his real X factor is, I've never seen Andrew Burton underperform where I've predicted him to be.
Yeah.
He always performs at where he should be or above. He's very good at competing.
Yes.
And as I've seen in these last couple, like, big shows I've done, a lot of guys lose shows. They don't win shows. They're capable of winning, but they find a way to lose.
Yes.
And he's got that X factor where he knows how to win.
If there's anybody on this list, there might be 1 or 2 others. But if there's anybody on this list that I think matches you, I don't think anybody beats you as far as, like, okay, let's go. Big moments, give it to me, right? Which I'll give that to you. I mean, I would put him there. I mean, just seeing what he's done when he needed to do it at, like, the Arnold Amateur. So, all right, but I guess we'll see. Yep. All right, so next up we've got Brett Thompson, right? So Brett, he's definitely been a staple, like, on the pro scene now. He got his pro card at our show. I believe it was, let me pull it up really quick.
Year 2.
I think it was year 2. Year 2 at the Rainier.
Year 1. So
yeah, he won year 1 and he won year 2. He won actually, that's a good point. So he got his pro card year 1.
No, it wasn't a pro-am yet, technically. The pro-am system that allowed pro cards to go out.
That's right.
Right? We were still in that era where the Platinum Pluses were dying, but there was no replacement yet.
That's right.
So technically you could say year 1 Rainier might as well be where he went pro, but year 2 is actually where he went pro.
Yes, you're right. Now, once again, we're looking at the past 3 years, right? So the 2021 Rainier and the 2022, the 2022 Rainier is in this, actually. But did really well. Obviously won that, was very consistent. Went on to compete at America's Strongest. And you weren't at 2022, right?
No,
you weren't at 2022. Did fairly well in that show, known for, like, carrying. He did well in that carrying in that show. He did the 2023 Shaw Classic, won the deadlift, came in third in max axle press, came in second in the medley, then went to do 2023 Americas against you. And do you remember what he placed thereabouts?
Top 5 or so?
I think he was. I think he was in the top 5. He was that. I remember that whole time he was like, man, I'm not feeling too good. But then he just showed up.
Fine.
And he was always middle of the pack. His best event there was the medley. So second of 12. And then he did the 2024 Arnold Amateur, did pretty good, honestly, at that. I believe he was like top 4. Best thing there, he did Denny Series was first, tire deadlift was second, load and drag was third, and then the squat lift. Or no, excuse me, I'm sorry, that was Andrew. I apologize.
Yeah, no,
I apologize. That was Andrew. So 2023 Americas is the last event we have data for. Yeah. Okay. So anyways, with that being said, interesting score for Brett. His top score of 81, data score of 72.12 based off what he's competed in. So lower end shows, right? He has not yet been to, an Arnold UK-ish type of show, right? And so, I would say America's is his biggest show that he has competed at or will compete at to this point. Obviously loading and grip. Once again, it shows it right here. We don't have any data on throwing or squatting based off of the events that he's done, which is interesting. Now that I think about it, if the first and second Rainier were in here, he would be
throwing data.
So what do you think? What are your thoughts here looking at this?
And what's interesting, if you would have completed the show for this year's Rainier,
Yeah.
he would have some squatting data.
It-
But he was in this year's Rainier, came down with an injury, kind of unfortunate
We
situation.
really wanted to see him there. Mr. Brett.
Sounds like he is 100% bounced back, feeling good. So this is his return after pulling out of the Rainier Classic. In the log, Brett is not a guy who's going to win the press, but he's always going to be in that top third.
Right.
We've had some really challenging presses at Rainier, and he always seems to hang in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
The yoke, he got second out of 12 last year.
Right.
Him and Crowder absolutely waxed me in that yoke farmer.
I mean, it was good.
It wasn't close. So he's going to be a problem in the yoke. He's probably my pick to win the yoke.
Mm-hmm.
Something like the America Shield, it's going to come down to that bicep.
Yeah.
If you can have a comfortable carry position, that's the kind of event that Brett's going to crush.
Yep. I was tempted to give him, to calculate that in here with the injury score, but according to him, he's feeling 100%.
Yep.
So yeah, I didn't see any risk there.
So yeah, I mean, my bicep might hurt more than his. I'm a little tweaked up.
Yeah.
Deadlift. He's a good deadlifter.
Yes.
He's had a variety of deadlifts. We have a decent amount of deadlift data on him.
Yep.
I bet he's a top 5 deadlifter.
I would agree
in this contest. Bag toss. We don't have any data. I know he can throw.
I know he can throw.
Yeah. So what's interesting with that bag toss, I think it's all going to be pretty tight. It's a lot of the guys are going to finish, and it's just going to come down to split times. So a good drag race, who makes no mistakes. And then the stones, he actually has a pretty low loading score, which from my recollection of everything I've seen of Brett, I would call him a bad loader. But so what data do you have on that?
I could go over it. So when it comes to, I'll just go over loads, right?
Sure.
Because it's relevant to a point. Max sandbag load at 2022 America's Strongest, 10 of 13. Atlas stones at the Shaw Classic at 2023, 7 out of 16. Natural stones at the Natural Stone Medley, right? That was at 2023 Americas. He came 7th out of 12. And then and then Atlas. Oh shit! I keep on moving into Andrew, but I was right all the way up to that point. So Natural Stones. So he's always been middle of the pack or towards the back of the pack.
Interesting.
Stones. So
yeah. So we'll see how he does. He's a guy who's much like Andrew Burton, fairly well rounded. I think he's more well rounded than I see the scorecard reflecting, which is interesting in my head.
Yeah.
I'd have him probably a top 5 guy in the show if he comes healthy.
What's interesting about Brett, and when you look at his data, and when you look at how he does events, one trend is he starts strong, he ends strong, which is pretty rare. Like, because, us fat guys, we usually get tired as the show goes on, right? And we'll talk about athletes that have that kind of trend. But for him, like, when it's time, he's another one of those guys. It's like, I'll never forget the truck deadlift at Second Rainier when it was heavy. Like, we had to make the adjustment. It got heavy really quickly, and he just he screamed through it to make sure he got that rep. Like, Brett will show up if he needs to. So I think the score, once again, is very accurate from where he's at. I think so it labels him as a good, not a very good, but a good athlete. I think I'm right there with you. I think him and Andrew Burton are within a couple spots of each other.
Yep.
In my opinion. So. All right, so you mentioned Brian Kitchen's probably not going to be at the show, but let's talk about him anyways, just because we have all the data on him. So pretty interesting when it comes to Brian. Once again, has not been competing, doesn't have a lot of years in competing. The data that we have on him up to this point is competing at the 2024 SCL Worlds, which, middle of the pack basically all the way through. Interestingly enough, worst event in that show was shield carry. 8 of 12, which that's on him here. And then we have the 2024 Arnold Amateur. Worst event was the load drag. Best event was the Denny series, which was so interesting. They had the Denny stone in that. And then, so just really those two shows. But, basically very much all the way through the middle of the pack. The Arnold, the overhead medley, he came in last. But like I said, the Denny series, he was 3rd in the Arnold. Tire deadlift, 5 of 10. Sandbag shoulder, 5 of 10. Sandbag toss, good thrower, 3 of 10.
Sure.
So what do you think?
Yeah. So some data that's not included there. I was there to watch his amateur nationals where he went pro, and very under the radar.
Yeah, we don't track nationals on this. Yep.
But very under the radar, steamrolled some very good competitors. He ended up winning over Nick Gardione, and Nick is no slouch. I would put him in my top 3 or 4 guys who are next to get up on the big stages.
Well, Nick won Shaw Open, right?
No. He did
No,
not.
what did he win? He won something.
He won the Arnold Amateur.
He won the Arnold Amateur. That's what it was.
So hopefully that means that he gets in the Arnold Pro next year. Very close on the Shaw Open as well.
Yep.
But at that Amateur Nationals, Kitchen beat him, and it was close, but it wasn't like he was in danger. Kitchen put on a fantastic show, so I think he might be a little more well-rounded than the card reflects.
Well, you said he did well at the Arnold Amateur and he beat Nick?
No. He did well at his Amateur Nationals where he went pro, which was his show prior to that Arnold Amateur. Yeah. So that data is not included in his card. It is an amateur show, but he was against some big names but they were all big names on the rise, right? So it's kind of interesting. His press looks good. His yoke seems to be pretty good these days. The shield, I mean, the only data we have is pretty poor.
I mean,
this is a properly heavy, big, awkward shield. So he's probably going to drop some points there. The deadlift, I think he's a decent deadlifter.
But everything we have on him is middle of the pack. Yep. I
think he's in the category that 855 bar might just be out of range.
Yeah.
Like his best case scenario is a decent time up to 805. The bag toss, we got good data on him.
Yep.
So it'll come down to splits and mistakes, and then stones. He has a 73. What stone data did he have? Not much.
Yep, sure. Look at it right here. So
I do know that
we do. No, nothing.
At his Amateur Nationals, they had a tackless stone event.
Yeah,
and he absolutely crushed.
Did he crush it?
Yeah. So at least from a fundamentals perspective, if somebody can do fairly heavy non-tacky stones, they got their fundamentals down. So I wouldn't really trust just yet. We need a little more data for that loading score.
Yeah,
I think he's going to
the loading score is going to be the load and drag. So load and drag was a part of that where he was 9 of 10. It's probably just as, I mean, it sounds like from what I'm seeing from a data perspective, he just doesn't have good lungs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Strong dude, no lungs, right?
So, but easier to get in shape than to randomly add strength.
Exactly.
So if he comes correct, and he seems like he's been training really hard, I don't think he's a top 5 guy yet. He'll probably be middle of the pack if I had to guess. But I've seen him perform really highly against guys that are good.
Yep.
So I wouldn't count him out, but if I had to just based on the numbers, I'd put him mid pack.
Yep. And 67.39. I mean, that's right in there in the average, category, which I think we're both aligned with. I think he's a great guy. I hope the best for him, honestly. And I really was excited to see him compete. I'll be down there in Vegas.
I was happy when he answered the call and then
good for you,
hung
man.
Up the call and went to SCL.
Good for you, Brian. Yeah. All right. Let's keep moving here. So Dimitar coming out of semi-retirement, right? If you don't know who Dimitar Savatinov is, get your fucking life together and look up some stuff on YouTube because drink more Dimitar. If you don't know where that quote comes from, you can also go fuck yourself. Anyways, but no, this is somebody that I've always enjoyed watching. Like, he's competed for 12 years, like from a pro-am or bigger perspective. So he's been around for forever. He's done some amazingly cool things. Really interesting though, when pulling his information, like there's nothing over the past 12 years from a push-pull perspective, from a squat or a throw.
Nothing.
In 12 years, he's never done a throw. Or no, I'm sorry. Pardon me. We are only looking at the past 3 years. Sorry. Okay, he has to have done a throw in the past 12 years. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. We only pulled the past 3 years. And the reason for that is he's not done a show before 2024. I believe it's since 2020.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. He's not, sorry, I got really ahead of myself. I was like, wait, what in the world? But let me just go through it really quick. I want to hear your thoughts. The only show over the past 3 years, but I'm going to go over 2021 too, because he had this gap between 2018 and 2021 as well. But so I'll mention 2021, even though 2021 is not featured in this data to keep it consistent. He did Masters Worlds, worst event on that. He was always, there was 34. He was always at least 8th in all these events. Carry and drag and Atlas Stones was his worst, but they were both 8th. And his best was log, not surprising. And then he did 2022 Masters Worlds, where he, once again, not surprising, Viking press first of 13 reps. Worst event there was deadlift for him, which is interesting to me. It was Stones, actually, that he was his worst in 2022. And he did so that's what we have. So we haven't seen him compete in 2 years. And so you've mentioned to me that he looks strong on his Instagram. You're excited to see him. Talk about that. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think compared to what happened
The-
3 years ago?
And I
versus now?
don't believe it would
Yeah.
come up on Strongman Archives. The only thing he's really done in recent history was last year at the Ragnarok Games. They had a big invite a bunch of guys American deadlift record attempt event. So he came just for the deadlift. He did break the American deadlift record, and I think him not getting invited to the deadlift championships in
It's a
Vegas
shame.
really pissed him off.
It's a
He was
shame.
very publicly mad about it.
Yeah.
So this America's Strongest Man, I think, is his chance to like put a stamp on it. It's like, I'm still here. He's an athlete that's in his 40s. He's done the Arnold Classic. He's done Worlds. He's done all these big shows. He's won this show before. He's won America's Strongest Man.
Yes.
And there's been years where he's podiumed behind some of the best in the sport, or even beat some of the best in the sport at this contest. So, and if you watch Dimitar's training, he's hitting reps in the mid 300s in the log. He has an interesting strategy for training the yoke. My body couldn't handle it, but he's doing a lot of overweight training.
I didn't
Like
notice
1,300
that. He went
range.
1,300 pounds. Well, it was like this weird walk hold kind of thing.
Yeah. And on a Titan yoke, no less. He's
Yeah.
pushing that Titan yoke to the limit. But I have no doubt that he'll be very solid on a 1,000-pound yoke. The America's Shield, I think, is where he's going to drop points. He's just a big, round guy.
Yeah, dude.
And,
I mean,
and that's an event I'll probably struggle with as well.
mhm.
Just being in his mid 40s, I think he's just lost a step compared to a lot of the guys. And Dimitar was really never known for his speed, but 2 feet in the ground, Dimitar would be a huge problem.
Right.
Deadlift, he's very comfortable in a suit. I think he will breeze through the deadlift ladder. He's my pick to win, unless I can get him on speed
On the deadlift ladder.
on the deadlift ladder. Yeah, he's already
You think he has the lungs to make it to the 855?
easy. He posted
I think so too, but it's just interesting to hear.
he
your
posted a
perspective
set of, it was 3 or 4 reps at 825 resetting each time.
on it. Yeah.
He's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the deadlift, he's my pick to win. On the log, he's top couple. Bag toss, just like the shield, I think is where he drops points. He's just
Agreed.
he doesn't have the kind of build to do it, and he's probably lost his step from where he was in the past. And then the stones, he's posted some good extensions, but I haven't seen much stone data. I don't have much to predict off of.
I have his, I pulled it. I'm smarter than I thought I was. I actually pulled his full career because we only had the end. So his toppest for the past 3 years, because really there's only, the 2022, 80, 68.15. It's what we're looking at right now. Over his whole career, he's a toppest of 76 with a data score of 74.9. And his throwing is by far the lowest.
By far the lowest.
The lowest, and loading is still pretty consistent. But deadlift definitely got better.
Sure.
Yeah, over his career.
So Dimitar's a weird one. He's capable of winning or top 2 or 3 in 3 of these events.
Yes.
And 3 of these events, just based on the fact that he's a masters athlete with not the ideal build. I don't know how he does in those other 3. I think he's going to really hurt himself in the America's Shield and the stones.
I would agree. I love watching him compete, but every single time he starts to get gassed, he scares me.
Yeah.
Like he is the
Man
most
turns purple.
Yeah, I was about to say, every single time I feel like one of his like wrinkles in his head is going to burst open or something like that. But I'm really excited. I'm a huge fan of Dimitar. I love his grit. But
so it's gonna be cool to see. I have no good way to place him. I think his path to placing high is other guys leaving opportunities and him not dropping a ton of points on those 3 events. It's going to come down to how other guys compete, which is not a great way to perform. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's going to earn super high points in those 3 events. 3 events he places high on his own merit. The other 3, he just is damage control.
Yeah, I personally here, I think the cards pretty much match up where I have him as well. Middle to below the line of middle. Only because I think the bag throw, I don't see him doing well in that. The yoke, he'll do it, but he's slow. He won't beat it on speed, but he'll do it.
Yeah.
Trump log, I think he's gonna kill. But I don't know what his lungs will do. To your point, it's not that heavy.
Like,
360. What's gonna be the win for reps on 360?
I'm doing 7.
Yeah, exactly. So Dimitar's not getting 7.
Yeah.
It won't happen. But he is strong enough to do more, but just not for reps. So I think he's going to be in that, personally. I think he's going to be in that middle of the pack. But we'll see.
Okay.
So, all right, next up, we got our boy. We got our boy, Josh Hatfield, BFD. Josh is our first card here that we're looking at. Obviously, we're looking at the past 3 years. He's competed. A Rainier is a part of that. Won the Rainier in, I believe it was 2022. is
or
when
2023.
it was one of those two. Yep, when he won, where he won. And I got to get through all of Dimitar's events because he's so many of them. But 2024, he did the Olympic City Pro-Am, did really well in the log ladder on that, which for Josh, it's kind of cool. He did 2 logs in the log ladder, which I don't know if that's... did everyone else just suck
The third log was properly heavy.
It was properly heavy.
Yeah, I think it was 400 pounds.
All right, cool. So he actually won the overhead, which is great for him. His overhead's gotten a lot better, actually, over time. 2023, he did America's Strongest Man along with you. I remember being there with him. It was definitely tough. He was dealing with, a few health issues, events that he should have been really good at, like the max sandbag load, things like that. I apologize. Like the natural stones, like he's always been a great stone loader, did not do well. Power steers not do well, but then that's when he was just kind of like,
his body was a little beat up.
His body was beat up. 2022 America's Strongest Man. He killed it on a lot of things there, but then did not do well on the max sandbag load and then the max log lift that was there. Just he was really working on his press at that time. Then Beerstone also falls into this as well, where he did very well at Beerstone. Did he end up podium? Because he came in 1 of 8, 2 of 8, 3 of 8, 4 of 8, 4 of 8.
That podium was Bobby Thompson, him, and Austin Andrade. That's the show where Austin Andrade went pro.
That's where he went pro.
Yeah.
Nice. So,
yes.
So with that being said, I have him. The one last thing I'll say, and I want to hear your thoughts, is, part of, he's 79 on paper, which if you've known Josh and as well as I do, and he's been around the sport for a long time, and he is legitimately a 79 on paper. Like, Josh can be a great strongman, but he's just always seemed to have gotten in his own way. He's gotten in his own way from succeeding in one way or another. And honestly, just his body being beat up at the wrong times. So unfortunately, with the risk that he did the open shot, that's the last thing that he did, and he had to pull out after 1 log rep. He just, the altitude was killing him. Like, his blood pressure was through the roof.
He got sick.
Yeah, he got sick. And so I put him as a risk here, which hurts his data score. So it puts it at 66.46, which is the lowest we've seen so far as we're looking at athletes. But that's the thing, man. I love him to tears, but he needs to come right, hydrated, ready to go, which I know he's capable of doing. He just has to get out of his own way. So what do you think when you look at this?
Yeah, it's tough. Like, there's some positives. He picked up a new coach. He's working with Rady right now. It seems like Josh was telling me that him and Terry have a pretty good rhythm going. He says this is the healthiest he's felt in a long time, which is a cool thing to hear from Josh, because I really we check in on each other all the time, and he's half the time he's like, I'm hurting, I want to stop.
Yeah.
But recently it's been like, I feel good. The only thing he's not excited for is the hoos, but nobody's excited to do hoos.
Right. Yeah. If you say you're excited about doing hoos, you're crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and even with some inconsistent data, he does have that capacity to go near 80 on his overall. I would still correct Josh Hatfield, top 4.
Yes.
I genuinely do believe that.
I do. Like I said, on paper, 79. Yeah. I would agree.
With the log only being 360 for the high trump, if Josh pulls 2 out of himself, maybe 3, great points.
Yep.
Yoke, historically, Josh, fantastic yoke runner, but he's just had a couple weird days. So his data is not completely reflective of how good I think he can be at yoke. Right. The shield, when he went pro at amateur nationals, he absolutely crushed the shield.
He did.
When Josh is in shape, he's very good at the hoos.
But that was
many years ago.
That was many years ago.
Many years
right?
ago.
So, yeah.
Deadlift ladder. He sounds like he's doing it no straps, no suit. He might use straps on the last one. So for sure, I can bet that he will get through 805 with good speed and good split time.
Yes, I agree.
And I think he has the capacity for the 855 if his body's feeling good.
Yep.
So I think his weekend for me comes down to how many reps does he get at 360, and does he finish the deadlift ladder?
Yeah.
Right? I think he totally can finish the bag toss series, just no mistakes.
Yep.
And he can totally finish the stones. Josh, if he just does what he's capable of, he might even be a top 3 guy.
Yeah.
He might be, right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of the newer guys coming in have never competed against Josh at his best.
Yep.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
But I think if it is Josh at his best, which I hope it is, I think he's going to be standing on that podium.
Well, I mean, Josh, and you would agree with me on this, like when it comes to loading, and loading does incorporates a lot of different things, including Atlas stones. His Atlas stone score is 90 plus.
Yeah.
That one subset. Now it feeds into the loading score, right?
Yeah.
Where he's gotten fucked in the past is with, things like natural stones or anything that wasn't Atlas stones.
Yeah.
And Atlas stones, at the Rainier and stuff like that, Like Rainier, the
think
last one he did, he
won.
won. So, and this is an Atlas Stone series, which we haven't seen him at a big show do that in a while. So, like I said, we're looking at the past 3 years. If I expanded this out to his whole career, his loading score goes, I believe it was from it went from like a 70 to like an 82, something like that.
Sure.
So absolutely, he's underrated as far as what we're looking at, but we have to keep the data, we have to keep it clean across everybody, So I do think Stones, top 3. I think Trump, I think the log, he's in damage control. Yoke, he'll do it.
Honestly, dude, in this list, you say damage control. If he gets 2 to 3 reps, I think he's top 5 in the press. There's not big press at this show.
I guess we'll take a look at it.
I think me, Dimitar, Zach Price, and Tim Buck. Behind that, if he gets 3 reps, he is in 5th in the press.
Sure. Yeah,
right?
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, so to your point, that's a good point. Yeah, damage control, you're just talking like not getting an 8th. Yeah, I don't think he'll get an 8th.
Sure.
But of course, he just did a show where he did one log and his head almost exploded. So, but yeah, if as long as if he gets through these first 2 events with a press and a CNS loading event, and he comes out, he's like, I feel great. Yeah,
Josh can be a problem.
He'll be a problem. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Justin. So Justin, say his last name. Laguerre.
Yes.
I think I was in my head the other day. I was just saying Legray, which is dumb. That's not right at all. But not a lot of data on him over the past. I don't know much about this guy. You probably know more than I do. I just know based off of what events that he's done, which I'll go over really quick and then hear your thoughts. 2023 America's Strongest that he did. So he was there with you.
Yes.
At that show. Looks like he did okay. Probably middle of the pack, a little bit better. Arnold Amateur. He did actually very well at the Arnold Amateur.
Placed third to me.
Yeah.
That's where he went pro.
That's where he went pro. Was at that show. And then, of course, the last thing he did before the 2023 Arnold was OSG 2021. So it's not going to show up in the data. So we have those 2 events. Him better than I do. Tell me, how does his card look compared to what the show's going to look like?
Do you have his overall placing in America's last year?
I'll look it up.
If I'm not mistaken, he placed 4th.
I will look it up for you.
And he placed 4th, and he did the same thing in the Amateur Arnold, placing 3rd. He placed that high without impressing maybe one time. He's just consistent. He will be a top 5 or 6 guy every single event. He doesn't have giant holes. Like at the Amateur Arnold when he placed.
You said
3rd,
2023, right?
The one that I won.
Yeah, so you were tied with first with Rob Kearney, and then tied for third was what?
So I got first. Marcus got second.
Marcus and Brett tied for third. Wait.
You're looking at an individual event.
Yeah, you're right. Give me a second.
Okay.
Keep going.
But I believe he got 4th. Laguerre is very well-rounded and very dangerous, and not a lot of people.
He did come in 4th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Coming in 4th
he won
on
at
that
61.
roster.
Marcus had 54. Rob had 53, and he had 46.5.
Yeah.
He's coming 4th.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think he's an absolute problem. His log is a weak point. If he just gets a rep, maybe 2 at the Trump, he's got decent points. The yoke is going to be a weak point for him.
Yeah.
The yoke is a weak point for him. I know it crushed him a little bit last year, but it seems like his training is going well. I got a lot of respect for him. He was like had a rough couple weeks or months of his life going on. Nobody's business to get into that, but he's like, I'm trying to find a way to go. 2 days later, he's like, I signed up. I found a way to go. And he's figured out a way to do America's Strongest. So I'm really happy to see him. America's Shield, he's one of the most fit guys. He is one of the lowest body fats of all of us. He's going to be able to hold it close to the body. I bet if he can handle the weight, he's going to be good in that event.
Yep.
Deadlift, he has an 88. Or no, he doesn't.
He's a 94.
He's a 94.
Yeah, he's done very well in deadlifts in those 2 shows.
Which I would be curious to find out what the heaviest deadlift he's had to do in a show.
So 2023, the Ukrainian deadlift, he came in 2nd. And then in the Arnold Amateur, it was
also Ukrainian deadlift.
It was also Ukrainian
so it's
deadlift,
not
which came
good
in
data
2nd.
for a true deadlift.
Yeah.
So
well, then let's look at 2021 OSG. Then deadlift ladder, he was 12th out of 28 in 2021.
Sure.
So
hard to say. We really don't have the data to say can he hit 855 in a ladder. But if Justin messes around and hits 805 quickly or finishes at 855,
interesting,
huge points, and he could be a real problem. So I think the deadlift makes or breaks his weekend. His throwing, we don't have any data on him in the throws.
Nope, nothing that he's.
So hard to say, but he's an athletic guy. I wouldn't count him out. He's not terribly tall, so I don't think he's going to win the throw. So in the deadlift and the throw, if he just kind of hangs upper half of the pack, he's still very much in this contest. And the stones, his loading score 88.
88.
Pretty damn good.
Yep.
I don't think we have a stone series for him.
Let me look it up real quick.
He
I don't
did
think so.
He did the natural stone series with me at America's.
He did.
He did fine.
Which was 2023 Arnold Amateur.
No.
Oh, excuse me. I apologize.
America's
America's Natural Stones. He was second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's very technical. He executes. He performs up, much like what we talked about with Burton. Could very easily be a top 5 guy. Pending deadlift and throws, he could be a top 3 guy. And I don't think anyone looking at this list thinks that. But if I had my dark horse of the whole show, it's Justin McGeary.
For winning?
No. Just to be on the podium.
Oh, podium. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm gonna be very biased with my winning prediction.
I was about to say what? I was like, what? Okay, well there you go. So, all right, so we're almost done with our list here. Next up, we've got Levi Strong. Now, Levi, Levi is just now really starting to compete in bigger shows. Quite literally, the only thing that he's done from a major show other than a pro-am has been 2023 America's Strongest, which he did not do well in. So and I know Levi. I've known what he's done from an amateur perspective. Obviously, he's he got his pro card, at nationals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, he looked great when he did nationals, but it was a very athletic show where he could excel. I feel like that's where it's kind of like his bread and butter is. But what do you think? I mean, it's really, we don't really have enough on him to really, from this perspective, to really say much about him other than what we know about
So
him.
from my perspective, so he's been working with Alec for a couple months now. So we have the same coach. He's got a lot of big holes. He's not a good presser.
Yeah,
he will
not at
get
all.
last in the press.
Yep.
Even with the
That
progress.
is one thing that shows.
And one of the big issues is I think he's just competed a little bit too much this year. And he hasn't gotten to stack good blocks of training that weren't show focused or crammed before a show with Alec yet. I think give him an off season with Alec. I think he's going to really shine.
Yes.
Because he's like 6'8".
Yeah, he's so big.
And he's one of those
tall.
guys that could be 400 pounds lean.
He could.
Right. He's already.
And he says he wants to try.
Yeah, he's already a fantastic mover. I think the event where he's probably my pick to win is the America Shield. Just from talking to him and everything that he said like a traditional Hoos is probably one of his best events. So I could see him doing really well there.
That's interesting to me. Yeah.
He just got such long arms. He's going to get a good purchase on it.
Uh-huh.
The deadlift, his deadlift is drastically improved. So I think he'll be probably a top 5 guy in the deadlift.
Yep.
He is, if as tall as he is, if he's not a top 5 guy in the throw, he's screwing around.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now that I kind of talk this through, I think he starts the weekend ranked pretty low with the log and the yoke, but get into those next 4 events. He's not bad. He could chip away some points. I think he's going to be a huge problem for people. He's going to take points away. He's going to place higher than you think in those last 4 events. I still have a hard time putting him in my lead pack.
Yep.
He's probably a mid-pack guy. I wish we had more data. He's got to compete a bit more and build that press. Getting a fat 0, he might get a single rep at 300 pounds.
I mean, he is the first athlete. I love you, Levi. I mean, he's the first athlete that I've got as like the candidate to be last. But he is also one of the candidates that he could very well be middle of the pack.
Yeah,
I don't think he's getting above middle at all.
I think most of these predictions videos, mid to the end, is so hard to predict, almost impossible.
It's almost impossible. I would agree. And you never want that. I want to be I never want that for an athlete. But the fact of the matter is, experience, what I know about all the athletes, what the data and what I know about them coming into this. I mean, but this is good. It'll be a really good. He needs just more experience, and at least this is what I love about it is he's showing up.
Yeah.
And this is something that is really pissing me off about the sport right now is like there needs to be more Levi's that show up to these shows. Learn from Lucas is there. Like, Lucas is there. Freaking Dimitar is there. You can't tell me that you can't just come have fun, have a strongman show and talk to these guys, learn from them, like coaching tips, things like that. I just don't understand, man. So I appreciate that he's showing.
I could very well see, like, we're predicting him in mid-pack to the lower half. Since we don't have data on him, and I just know how big and strong he is in these moving events, things like deadlift, I could see his score jumping significantly after the show.
Yeah.
I don't think his press goes anywhere, but his other scores, as we build data, I think put 5 more shows under his belt, I think he's a lot more competitive.
I agree.
And I don't think he is not competitive now. We just don't have the data to prove it.
And let's be honest, like, you know, your shows that you were doing, your first Pro-Am was 2021 Rainier, and your first couple of shows, if we did scorecards for you then, it would not
be
look
in the
good.
60s.
It would not look good. And that's okay. I mean, it would be weird if you came into your first Pro-Am and you were an 80, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, that's where he's at in his career right now. So it's not surprising. All right. So let's go on to someone we all know, Lucas Hatton. Now, what's really interesting here is, so when we look at the past 3, when I decided to just do last 3 years of data, there's, you know, multiple shows. Obviously, you've done, like I said, like 5 major shows at this point. 2022 also pulls in official Strongman games. You did that. And it also pulls in Beerstone, as well as the 2022 Rainier Classic, right? You know, if we were to take out the 2020, which I did, I did this exercise. If I were to take out, you know, Beerstone, you know, your overall score would be like a 78, 79. But you know what? Fuck you, because we're looking at the past 3 years, right? So, you've done obviously, let's go through it. So strongest male on earth, kind of a big deal. Came in 3rd there somehow.
Exactly.
And then, right. 2024 North America's, 2024 Arnold UK, you know, obviously at this point we're talking about 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 2023 Americas, you won that show. 2023 North America's 2nd. 2023 Arnold Amateur, 2nd by like 0.02 or something. I can't remember. Good job, Pablo. 2022 official Strongman games, which
tied for 4th, pushed me to 5th.
Yes.
Actually lost to Tim Buck in that show, technically.
Yep. And then 2022 Beerstone just wasn't your best day.
No.
But it was a weird hot day, and it was for everybody. So when you're looking at this, obviously you're the 2nd best data score. But once again, part of the variables that are built into this is looking at shows that, you know, you have in your 3 years, you've got Pro-Am and Strongest Man on Earth. You literally have these like 2 opposites. You're the only one that
me and Kevin Ferris are probably the only people that have all 3 tiers worth of shows.
Exactly. And so that's factored in here, but you know, that's the beauty of looking at these variables. And it is important to look at those shows and see how you've grown in some events as well. So what do you think looking at your own scorecard?
Just all things considered, like we're still refining the score and how we reach it. I'm pretty comfortable with an 80, honestly. Like based on like we pulled much better guys.
Yep,
they're in the mid 80s. Like the top guys in the world right now are sitting in the mid 80s to the upper 80s.
Yep.
And I still have huge holes.
Yep.
So this is
I mean, that's really what gets you.
Yeah, that's what gets
the things that you know that you struggle with.
Having the throw and arm over arm. Those are my 2 scores that are yellow or worse.
Yes.
Right. And carrying, you know, I think give me a little more data, that's going to go up.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I get why I'm where I'm at on the scorecard. But these last 2 shows, I am never going to count myself out of a show again.
Right.
Because literally 2 shows in a row, North America's and Shaw Classic, I thought I was out.
Yeah.
And I ended up on the podium. So I think my X Factor, me and Alec have a really good system. We work well together. I always have a huge support system that comes to every show between you, my parents, everybody. We've gotten very good at getting all the points we can out of shows.
Yeah.
I'm coming to win.
Yeah.
Like I'm coming to win the show. I want to repeat. The log, I hope I draw first. I want to go out there and I want to make it so hard you can't beat me.
Yep.
But guys like Tim Buck could come get me. Zach Price could come get me. In the yoke, I think I could be top 3. In the shield, I could be top 3. In the deadlift, I could win. In the sandbag toss, that's my 1 damage control event. This, I've got a lot
really good training in that.
I've got quite a few podiums in a row now. This is the first one that's a single press with a throw. Can I win? This is my big test. Like, I think a lot of people have me predicted to win. If I screw around, I am not going to win this. This is not tailored towards me. I need to have a pretty good consistent run in the bag toss. And I'm so excited to do these stones because my stones have never been better. And I just made a technical error up at North America's for that last stone.
Yeah.
But I still ended up second in the stones.
Yeah.
To Maxime Boudreau, one of the best stoners in the world. So if I just end up upper half of the pack in the bag toss, I don't see myself any worse than second in the show.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, it's interesting. I think data doesn't lie, but I think the one thing that there's just some things you just can't predict. And this is part of what's coming out in the next version of the tool that me and the engineers are working on right now. It's weighted scoring based off of experience and show timelines, right? So, someone that's followed your path from doing a pro-am all the way up to strongest man on earth versus someone that's just done, pro-ams in America's Strongest Man. Those are important to weight those experience over time. We're able to do it in 2 years. We're able to do it in 5 years. It's pretty interesting when you look at the data on like who slowly built up to a great career and who spiked up to a great career. And like when you spike up to a great career, Mitch Hooper, it's like you spike and stay. Whereas, but if you grow, it's like you also grow and stay. So anyways, yeah, I would agree with you. The good news is for America's Strongest, you're obviously, I'm by a little biased, but it's just the truth. You're winning it, and thank God there's not a push or push pull, or excuse me, a pull.
Arm over arm.
And you just have to deal with sandbag, which you've gotten significantly better at. So I think it's a pretty no brainer, but we'll see. Okay, we have 3 more athletes, and we're all wrapped up here. So it's been a lot of fun so far talking through these. So Tim Buck is next. So Tim's pretty interesting. Tim has actually competed at the Rainier one time, I believe.
That's where he went pro.
Yep, and that's where he went pro. He got his pro card and said, "Peace, guys. Later, skaters." Did the 2024 Shaw Classic. This year did pretty well. Farmer's Walk was 10 out of 10. His medley was 2 out of 10. Dumbbell press 2 out of 10. Did the 2023 Shaw. Did not do as well, but so he definitely improved from 2023 to 2024. Did 2022 America's Strongest. Did not do well in that show. 2022 official Strongman Games.
He beat me.
He did beat you, actually.
Technically, the last time he competed, he beat me.
And dude, he was like 1/2 of a second behind you in that dumbbell press.
Yes.
That was nuts. That was such a cool event
Honestly,
to watch.
one of the coolest events I've gotten to do. Racing Tim Buck head to head in the dumbbell.
That was awesome.
That was sick.
That was so cool to watch. And then 2022 Shaw, he did as well. So a lot of Shaw and a lot of OSG, right? So he's done, I will give that to him. He's done, historically over the past 3 years, harder shows, right? But that's factors into this. Like his top of 72, he doesn't get that much of a discount on to his 65 score because he's done harder shows. So what do you think looking at his?
Yeah, he's had an interesting couple of years as far as life. He's a guy who opened a gym, took the leap. We've done it.
Yeah.
It's a hard couple of years when you first start out.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is tough.
He just moved to a new location, so he runs it's called Hometown Gym.
Yeah.
On Instagram, he's Hometown Strongman, so he opened Hometown Gym. Kind of cool. It seems like his space is about double the size of what his old one was. So pretty cool. Much like I was last year, we were fresh off of a move, and I had been moving and remodeling this gym for months and signed up for America's kind of last minute.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's fairly settled into his new gym. He's gotten a couple good weeks of training underneath him. His press looks awesome. I think he's just had a lot of life happen in these last few years. I think the last time we saw Tim Buck at truly his best was that OSG where he beat me. And that's the guy that I hope shows up. I think that guy's a lot higher than a 65 or even that 72 Tapas score. I think Tim Buck,
if it's that OSG, if it was that one show, he would probably be like a mid-70s.
Yeah, I think Tim Buck at his best is mid-70s, maybe even more, right?
Yep.
Like he's got super high capacity. He doesn't have a lot of gigantic holes. His grip is his only big hole, no grip in the show.
Yep.
So much like when we talked about Hatfield, if a certain Tim Buck shows up, I have him on the podium, and his score doesn't reflect that. I honestly do have him on the podium. I think he is his worst case scenario is 5th.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is like I'm right there with you, man. I think we look at a couple of these athletes and they're like, oh, why aren't they? Like, why can't we see him in podium? But historics are historics. 2024 Shaw, he did pretty good.
Yeah,
but the 1 year before didn't do well. Like but to your point, he was that life happens.
Life happens, and in a couple of these categories that Tim is good at,
It's a couple degrees heavier.
Mhm.
At those Shaw Classics, or at that recent Shaw Classic, he lost to a guy like Burton.
Yep.
I don't think he loses to a guy like Burton when it's 5% heavier, 10% heavier,
Mm.
right? With the log at 360, Tim Buck's gonna do 5. He's already done 5
Sure,
in 50
I would
seconds
agree
in
with
the gym.
that. I mean, he's a monster.
He's a good mover. He can
Yep.
move that yoke. If he just has a good, solid yoke run, I think his weekend, a lot like mine, is going to come down to the throw and the
Yep.
shield.
Yep.
We're very similar athletes in that way.
Yep.
If he puts together a good performance in the shield and the throw, I for sure have him on the podium.
Yeah, I definitely have him in the top half.
He's a
for
good
sure.
deadlifter. It seems like his training's been going well. Looks like he's going to be going in some briefs, which is allowed. I think he has the capacity to finish the ladder. He's just not going to be fast.
Yep.
But still going to be decent points. And then coming down to the stones, what data do we have on stones? I know at OSG, I don't remember how he did. I think he did slightly beat me on the stones. I had a really bad stone run.
For Atlas Stones, he won at the 2024 Shaw.
Yeah.
He won the Stones.
That is not a light series.
And 2023 Stones, 3 of 16. Third of 16. 2022 Americas.
So it's,
Our official Strongman games, he was 5 of 5th.
and those
of
were
10th.
very good stone loaders in that setup in that OSG.
I would agree.
So if Tim Buck messes around and comes into the stones in the top 5, in range of the podium, I think he's going to find a way onto the podium.
Yeah.
He's got good stones.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's the stones. His stone score is good. It's the other events in loading
That are killing
that have killed him. But when it comes just like Hatfield, right?
It might be interesting in the future to separate stones as its own deal, because we've seen that twice already. Where stones individually, like Atlas stones, are good, but they're bad at the other things.
Yeah,
that's something to think about.
It is interesting. I think it is interesting to maybe bring up the subsets sometimes.
Sure.
And honestly, when you pull comparison cards, which we haven't done yet because it's still in development, but when you pull comparison cards, it shows what the top 3 subsets are. So like, hey, Lucas versus X. Sure. Here's their subsets that are the best. It's actually pretty cool. So there's more to come on that.
Sure.
But once again, that's what makes it fun to talk about. It's because, okay, this is a guideline tool. Let's have someone that actually could speak to it, actually talk about it. So, all right, we have 2 more athletes here. So we said we were going to go in alphabetical order, and we added Kevin in last minute, so he's last. So anyways, this one to me is the one that I know you and I were just scratching our heads constantly, but it's just cold hard facts, man, when it comes to Zach Price. So we're going to look at Zach Price here. By far the lowest score. I put him at a big risk on this. I've seen Zach. I love Zach Price. He's a good friend of mine. But there's 2 things that I've seen from Zach, and I'll go over his events, and you'll just kind of see it. Is he has incredible pressing scores, and he has awful carrying and push-pull scores. What's interesting about the trends with him is any show that he's done over the past 3 years, which have been anywhere from the Pro-Am to a bigger show like North America's, the press has always been the first event. Mm-hmm. Always. And he always destroys on that first event, and then just hockey sticks down. Even though for how strong he is. And so it's going to be interesting talking about that. But when you look at this, I mean, I know you and I were just like, dude, what? Because I know you were even thinking there's no reason Zach could potentially podium at a show like this. But let's be real. Let's talk about why, the score is where it is.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he's got a lot of red on this sheet. And the context is important on a lot of these things. I think he's going to do better than the score predicts. I don't think he's a last place guy. I genuinely don't. I think he's more of a mid-pack guy. Log, he could definitely be top 3. If he's not top 3, I'll be shocked with me and Tim Buck. Yoke, let's see. His carrying score, where Yoke would be, 46. If you can, while I'm still talking, can you break that down a little bit?
I can. So the carrying score?
Yeah, so that's where Yoke would be, yeah?
So let me just go over the events where he was bad at. So 2024 North Americas, he came in 15th overall, right? He was second to last. Wheelbarrow carry, 15 of 16, but his grip's always been bad. Deadlift, 14 of 16. Atlas Stones, 13 of 16. Truck pull, 15 of 16. Sandbag toss, 14 of 16.
Do we have any yoke data for him?
Yoke, yes. 2023 Shaw Classic, 11 of 16. You want yoke data?
Yeah. We did it at the Rainier. It might be too old.
Might be too old, yeah.
And he did quite well at that. So, Yep.
So 2022 2022 Rainier Classic, 11 of 13.
11 of 13. Okay.
Yep.
I stand corrected on Zach
Yep.
Price with the yoke. So
Yep.
we'll see. He has the capacity to really crush it in a few things. It just kind of comes down to how healthy he is and if he can just string together some good events.
Like, look at this. Like, so 2024 North Americas, max log lift, 2 of 16, pressing 206 kilograms. 2023 Shaw Classic, overhead medley, 7 reps, 1 of 16. 2023 Rainier Classic, that's when we had the max barbell overhead press. Remember that? So max barbell with us wins it at 188 kilograms. 2022 Rainier Classic, we had
Max
the
log.
max. Did we?
We had Max
2022?
log, I believe.
No, we had.
Or was that Trump dumbbell?
It was
here?
the Trump Circus.
Yep.
Yeah, Circus dumbbell, 3 of 13.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
The man could press.
he could press, but it's interesting. I wonder if he's never had a show where press is the fourth thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess most strongman shows do have the press kind of in the beginning.
And
you know?
but much like me, he's done his best when the shows have 2 presses. This is a 6-event show with 1 press.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't suck at the other events. I've done stone training with him recently.
Mm-hmm.
He's damn good at stones right now. He's got great fundamentals, good strength. I think he has the capacity to finish that series if he paces it well.
Yep.
I think a lot of these guys 6 events in don't finish the series. Deadlift 2 feet in the ground. He has improved his deadlift. If he can just mess around and get three bars quickly, I give him a shot at 855. It might be a little too heavy for him. But his deadlift, I know, has improved. He's been hitting his conditioning really hard.
So you did the deadlift right there in North Americas. How heavy do you think that was?
That was 775.
775. He did 3.
Yeah. So it's interesting though. Like on a straight bar, I've seen what he's been doing.
2023 straight bar deadlift, 3 reps, 14 of 16.
Yeah. We'll see.
Dude, I'm just saying, like, I'm right there with you, and I love him. I love him, but this is very recent stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So, but here's the good news. Here's the one thing I see for him is there's no max.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in here that's a max. So there's nothing in these events that's going to take him to this over, like, max capacity threshold. If he could pace himself, he'll do well.
Yeah.
But that's the difference. Like, that from what I'm seeing from here, anytime it's been, you know, a press event, it's been a max or something heavy like a Trump circus dumbbell. So
yeah,
it's
so
interesting.
maybe he just doesn't get his energy level back down to where it needs to be and maintain it.
Yes.
It's a skill maybe that just hasn't been developed
Hasn't
yet.
been developed yet. Yeah.
We'll see.
I don't know.
All right. Last
That's
guy.
interesting. All right, last guy. All right, let's talk about Kevin Ferris. So the man, the myth, the legend, right? So this man has been around the block many times. I loved looking at him from a career perspective. And he's the only dude out of all these, because of his history, he does so many competitions at so many high-level shows. Dude, he's 72 tapas, which you would think is like, oh, that's low for on paper. But put this in perspective. He gets discounted to a 71.64. Kevin goes to shows where it's fucking tough, and he shows up and he puts out. Like, so this is interesting to look at, because Kevin, as you and I both know, like, he's competed at the biggest shows, but he's never the biggest. He's never the strongest. But, you know, if there was a grit factor in strongman,
He's
top
got it.
2, 3,
Yeah.
dude, he's got something in his brain that just, like, you know, he can turn it on. Yeah. What do you think when you're looking at this?
Yeah,
Nothing stands out to me too bad, but
no,
yeah.
he's a very well-rounded strongman. He's not going to make any mistakes technically. At North America's was the first time I've seen him like have a real screw up, and that was in his stones. But Kevin just has enough shows under his belt that he's expected to execute, and I think he will on all these events. These are standard strongman events. He's done all of them before. He's not a huge log presser, but that 360, he gets a couple reps, he's going to be fine.
100%.
The man's done a 1,000-pound yoke many times.
Yes, I would agree.
He just comes in healthy. He's going to be just fine. He's been moving yokes really well. I saw his training down at the Sweaty Pig. Seems just fine. The shield, he's probably the most in shape, fast-footed guy in the field. That could be where he crushes us.
Yeah.
He could be the winner of that event. I think it's between him and Levi Strong on that event. Deadlift ladder, he works with Chad Coy, damn good at building big deadlifts, and he loves heavy deadlifts often.
Yes.
Kevin is gas station ready when it comes to deadlift.
Yeah,
He's ready
no
to lift
kidding.
heavy at all times.
Yeah.
He thrives on heavy reps. Like, he's not going to impress you on a max, but I could see this 855 being something he could steamroll his way through.
Yep.
That last bar is going to be hard, but he has for sure the capacity to finish it. Sandbag toss, he's got a low throw score. But I think he's been forced into shows like Shot Classic, North America's, where the throws go up to like 60, 65, 70 pounds.
Right.
Worlds is the same thing. And I think to the smaller athlete, that's when the throw falls apart. I would bet 50, 52, 55. That's in a weight range that he can still crush.
So I've seen him throw at the last 2 big shows that he's done, most notably where we were in Canada. He is very volatile.
Yeah.
He is not a systematic thrower.
Yeah, it's just grip and rip.
It's grip and rip. And there were 2 different bags that could have gone over. It was undisciplined.
Sure.
It's not that he doesn't have the capacity. He just doesn't execute.
Yeah.
It's just from what I've seen, it's been obvious when you go back and look at it. So Kevin is just the reason why he's a top 3 guy as far as that eye of the tiger kind of thing is also kind of the reason I look at things like medley, I look at throwing, I look at push-pull, and I'm not surprised. Yeah. Because when it comes to medleys and things, you've got to be like cerebral, execute, the fingers, right? Going into the dragon, the power stairs. I mean, he's got the athletics, but he does the first finger and it falls on his face, passes out, and he gets up and finishes it, which is fucking cool, but there's no execution. So I think Kevin is just a Wolverine when he competes. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of a Hannah Lindsay, a little bit on the women's side. Just freaking just fired up, but just can't let that go into a focus that you need to win at bigger shows. I mean, would you agree with that? Or
yes and no, because I've seen the exact opposite. There's been times where Kevin is just he's made the final at Worlds before.
I get that.
He's been in the hunt at things like Shot Classic before. Yeah. He's had a top 5 year at Shot Classic.
Yep.
It just depends, he's got a day job. He's a pipe fitter. Like the dude's working hard. Yeah. It just kind of depends. He's got a lot of life external factors.
Yep.
And he's been in this game for a long time. Yep. If the Kevin that I just mentioned shows up, I think he's a top 3 guy. I really do. He doesn't have a gigantic hole. I think most of the guys on this list have one event that's a hole. I don't think he's going to win anything. Maybe the Shield.
Okay.
Maybe the Shield, but I don't think he has anything that drops him out of the top 5 or 6. Yep. And I think in a show like this with this many decent guys, that's going to be enough to podium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin could definitely be dangerous. I don't know. If you want to go your podium based on your scores, do you want to trust the scores purely?
Well, I think it's fun. I mean, it's our first time. It's our first time doing this for a show. I would like to, a few weeks after the show, let's do a post review. It'll be much quicker than today because obviously we did a deep dive into the tool and stuff like that. But if we go strictly based off of the data, which I don't necessarily want to do, that's not really the point of this, but it's kind of fun. In last place, we have Zach Price. In place after that, we have Levi Strong. In 8th place, because we have 9 competitors total, we're going to have Brian Kitchen, assuming he's still competing. It's Tim Buck and then Brian Kitchen. And then it's in 5th place, we have Dimitar. And then in 6th place, we've got, this might be a little bit wrong. We'll have to go back and check. But in 6th place, we have, in 5th place, I'm sorry.
There's more than 9.
There's 10, right?
There's a lot more than that.
So who's after Dimitar? Yeah, just give me a second. Dimitar is Kevin. Kevin's after Dimitar, which would be
so how about we just cut this whole part and Braden could just make
let's
a graphic.
Cut this. Yeah, let's cut this
make
part.
A graphic of just by the numbers, the order.
Yes. Yeah. Good call. So can we cut that? Yeah, because I was just like that. That almost made me go cross-eyed for a second. But yeah,
who would be your top 3? If we break it all down.
All right, so top 3 for me, looking at this, is you in first. I really struggled here with second. I really did. This is not taking the data into. We already looked at what the data says. We'll go over that here in a second again. But so I've got you in first. Really struggled with this, but I really do think, I do think that it's going to be Burton. Mm-hmm. I do think it's going to be Burton. I think he's going to be right behind you. And then I've got Brett. Number 3.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've got you first, Burton in second, and I've got Thompson in third.
Okay. That's not my podium.
Yeah.
No.
And I think Tim Buck, it's like between Brett and Tim.
The next 2 or 3 guys, I believe, if I had to guess for you, is Tim Buck, Liguri, and Ferris.
Pretty damn close.
Yes. Yep. So my podium, I am picking myself to win pending the bag toss. Pending the bag toss. If I don't mess around, we got it.
Yep.
Second place, Tim Buck. I think he's got it in him. Third place. This is kind of out of left field. Josh Hatfield. I'm putting a lot of faith in our boy. I am saying that knowing full well I'm probably going to.
All right, we need to clip this and send that to Josh.
Yeah, Josh Hatfield.
That's
third.
actually.
I think Josh Hatfield could mess around and get third. Now, more than likely, I bet that third it's actually probably Burton, but I'm keeping the faith. I think Hatfield can pull it out.
Okay.
And there's going to be a dogfight for third, and I think it's going to be between those four guys: Hatfield, Burton, Laguerre, Kevin Ferris.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely have Laguerre, as you mentioned, in top 5. No, I think that's interesting. For me, it's interesting kind of hearing your perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand the athletes, you know them intimately.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm looking at this from who has been the best to the most recent of this show, and it's been Burton.
It is Burton.
So yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking at Tim Buck, you're saying, well, I hope life's better now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
you know,
interesting. It's interesting. If we're doing a Giants Live, like fast pace, quick medleys, stuff like that,
yeah,
I think Burton crushes Tim Buck. But if we put like Tim Buck and Burton in the Arnold Classic, I think Buck destroys, right?
So
it's hard because this is a little heavy, a little light, a little medley. It's an interesting show.
So so think about this for a second. We're talking about the guy that won 2023 World's Strongest Firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
So a firefighter, is it going to do well in a carry event? Where he's literally trained to carry
I'm arguing that he will.
Yeah, like
I just think in the heavier events, Buck beats him.
I see.
I think when it gets heavier, Buck beats him. I have no doubt that he's going to do good in the Shield. I have no doubt.
Okay, well, let me ask you this then, and then this will be the debate for Tim and for Andrew. Deadlift ladder, who wins between those two?
Buck.
I do not think so. I think Burton does it and deals it faster.
Okay.
Based off of what I've seen,
I can see it.
So it's gonna be fun to watch.
But
it's gonna be fun to watch. Yeah,
Burton's been doing these Hummer tire deadlifts, not properly heavy shit from the ground.
Fair.
Right?
That's a fair point.
Right? That's a different thing.
But I have seen on his Instagram.
You pop them on an elevated pole, they're going to show out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give them 800 for reps off the floor, they're going to die.
I mean, I did see his Instagram a few days before he did the show. He was pulling 815 from the ground. Didn't look hard.
Sure.
So
I think Buck can do the same thing.
I think Buck could do the same thing. Yeah, but once again, this goes back to my brain of it's a ladder.
Josh Hatfield can do the same thing.
Hell yeah, brother. But I love that he's going mixed grip. Is he really going to do that?
He's going to mix grip, yeah.
Dude.
He called. I think he called me a bitch for using Versagrips.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, so this is great. I really enjoyed this process. It was a lot longer than we thought it was going to be.
We'll
but that's
refine
okay.
these quite a bit.
Yeah, but I think this is a great start. I think the tool has a long way to go. But man, there were things that we talked about today that were just like for example, you were just like, no, like, dude, like we were talking about Tim Buck. And it was like, no, he has to have been good in like a yoke, right? And then we went through it. It was like, nope. And it's like, well,
there's a lot of things we believe about athletes that
exactly
doesn't support.
Exactly. And so I think that's kind of the cool part about this, and it just kind of refines our way of thinking. So, anything you want to conclude on? You want to talk about the show, or
just share this around. I want to get as many eyes on the show as I can. This is a huge mission of mine to build up this show.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys behind it. So
this show, America's Strongest. By the way.
Also our show. I like reviewing shows. But as far as America's Strongest Man, if get some eyes on it, it's going to have a live stream through Official Strongman. So there's a lot of ways to support other than going down to the Olympia and watching. Yep. Just get some eyes on the show. It's going to be cool.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask, if you're watching this, and if you're probably one of the dorks that's made it to this point, what do you want to see? With this data, we can literally look anywhere in history in strongman. Do you want to see what year Kaz was the best? Do you want to see what comparisons between John Paul Sigmarsson and Kaz? Or do you want to know, who was the strongest of the 2000s? Like, let us know in the comments. What do you want to see? Like, what do you want us to talk about? I'm planning on pulling several. I'm going to be doing a lot of fun exercises, like, who are the best men and women to be in the sport over time. But really, this gets really fun when we can do some weird shit.
Yep.
Right. So, show reviews is cool. Awesome. It's very obvious. And I'm hoping with this that someone like a Burton right, that is just coming onto the scene. You know, that if we can really have data kind of slice through, you know, comparisons, maybe someone like Burton gets a shot.
Gets an invite that he otherwise wouldn't.
Otherwise would not
Yeah.
get.
How many
right?
how many guys on the main circuit are sitting at a 70 and they've been a 70 the whole time they get invited to every show?
Yep.
And Burton, with proof and data, is a 75 to an 80 or even higher.
Exactly.
Like, I hope someday that people are looking at this and like, okay, that's why.
Yes.
That's why he should go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I fully plan, guys. I fully plan on having this. It's not there. It's not even close. But I'm hoping with enough practice, with enough, you know, building this up, that I can literally send reports, like a 20-page Boston University report, to every major promoter in the country, in the world, and say, listen, here is the true top 50 in the sport right now for men and women. It shows it. Take it into consideration when doing invites.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see if we can actually change the sport for the better that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, let us know in the comments what you'd like to see. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. I'll be having Angelica Jardine, current America's Strongest Woman. She's going to be coming here and helping me do a review of the women, just like we did with the men here with the current America's Strongest Man, Lucas Hatton. But yeah, we'll be getting that up here in the next few days. Cool. So, till then.